Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ian is a Weirdo. Today is a little bit different for our mental health interviews. Lori is going to be helping me out today, which I really, really appreciate. And yeah, Lori, what are we going to be doing today?
What we're going to be doing is since Ian has been interviewing other content creators about different mental health challenges and issues, we wanted to be able to share his story in a similar format. We're going to share it in pieces. Um, and my phone comes through, uh, but uh, in pieces. And so that Ian can tell his story in the way that we're getting to share as other content creators and in the pieces that really have pretty clear delineations between each section of that we're going to talk about. So
Yeah, I
good.
I decided to kind of break up my story because I feel like I have such a long history in the mental health care system, like over 2 decades now, which is crazy to say. Um, but I wanted to break it into um, parts to be a little easier to watch and a little bit easier to connect with if anyone connects with specific parts of whether they're kind of beginning of their mental health journey, the buck time or two. So today we're just going to talk about my adolescence and early diagnosis. So
All right. So since you've been in the system uh, of treating mental health, your mental health for a long time, for over 2 decades at this point, can you talk a little bit about your first or initial interactions with the system and
yeah,
how you ended up there, how you got there?
yeah. I had kind of always been a little like I always felt like I experienced emotions differently and experienced the world a little bit differently than me growing
Yes.
up. And I think part of that was being like a queer trans kid. Can definitely point to a lot there. But then I think also just like my like level of reactivity, my ability to regulate my emotions, things like that, just were always kind of off. And I in kind of middle adolescence was self-harming, and my first attempt was at 12 years old,
Mm.
and tried to take a lot of aspirin, which I feel like is very common to hear when you hear about people's first attempts.
Mhm.
Um, I wanted to make like a side note here that like if you ever hear that that's what people did to try to make it an attempt, like so many people will take it lightly because like some people they hear I took too many and they're like, how many is that? And it's like four. And some people that's a whole bottle. And all of them should be taken equally as seriously. Pretty much everyone I know who's made an attempt in their lifetime, like that was their first attempt. So always something to be taken very seriously. Um, and so I did that at 12. I started going to therapy because my parents were like, something's really not right with this guy. And then, um, then things started kind of getting more and more out of control. And when I was in ninth grade, it was the first month or something. I had a friend who wanted to go to the school counselor to talk about issues that she was facing. And so I went with her because I honestly would find any reason to not just to class. Like, truancy was a big issue for me. And so like the counselor is talking to her about these problems. Okay, what's going on? Let's talk about it. And then he
Mm,
turns to me and he was like, "Why are you here?" and starts counseling me. And
mm,
uh, and uh, we start talking about suicidality of all things. And he was like, "When was the last time you felt this way?" And I was like, "Last night." Like, no big deal. Like, and that day I ended up in a hospital. So
Oh,
I didn't even go for me. I ended up in a hospital that day. My friend did not. Um, and and that's where I got diagnosed with, a handful of things. So I got diagnosed with bipolar 2, borderline, um, generalized anxiety disorder and panic disorder, um, and something else. But yeah, just a handful of, things that just got thrown away all of a sudden. So it was a big, like, it went from things don't seem great to like things are actually
right. Right. So it became a, hey, this is not just, this is not just, oh, this is difficult. This is serious and needs to be addressed and diagnosed. So on that, once you received your first collection, that's funny to call it that, of diagnoses, how did your life change from there?
sorry.
Yeah, no
Uh,
problem. Once you received those diagnoses. Okay,
yeah.
so once you received those diagnoses, that first set, um, how did your life change from there?
I think that having the diagnoses really provided a lot of context to my behaviors, which was helpful for everyone, including myself.
Mm,
Um, and admittedly, I kind of checked a lot of these diagnoses. Um, not I don't know if I thought they were that far-fetched, but I was so in the mindset of I'm not going to let them define me
mm,
that I was like working against everything, like the treatment for them and everything. Um, Now the people around me, that changed dramatically
mm,
because everyone kind of saw me with this like warning label on my forehead,
mm,
um, for what I got diagnosed with, and people started treating me a lot
mm,
differently, especially people who I was really close with, um, where it was either like a grounds for dismissal for any emotions I was feeling. It's like Ian's bipolar, so like why would we take whatever he's going through seriously or his opinions about things seriously? Um, And then if I did have like any, even within the normal range of emotions, which that's like you know, what even is that when you're 15, right? Um,
right.
but like if I experienced any emotions, they were automatically like you're bipolar, and these are bipolar feelings. You shouldn't feel this way. Did you take your meds today? That would always be like the first.
Mm,
So it was a really dismissive time when I
mm,
already was facing neglect.
mm.
Just kind of double down on a lot of these feelings of like, okay, well, whatever I'm feeling, it doesn't really matter to people. I'll just continue to be a crazy person.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a tangential question here. Um, did it change dynamics with your teachers? Did you see differences with your teachers as well?
So my teachers never, I don't think my teachers knew.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they knew my diagnoses or
Okay.
even that I felt like I reached the limit of my sympathy level
Mm,
that I could with them. It's like
mm,
they saw me like go for a week and not come back,
gotcha.
and things like that. But I was also skipping their classes all the time, and
Right.
it's like they could only
Right.
do so much, and especially
Gotcha.
that they didn't know exactly what was going on, um, and honestly, if they did know and they extended me extra grace, I would have taken advantage of it at the time. If I'm being like 100% like where I
Right.
was, like I
Right.
like, oh, you're not going to be mad that I didn't do the homework. Guess who's not going to do the homework? Like I didn't need any reason. more than I already had to not
Yeah,
show up. So
gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha. That was just a curiosity because I know in my experience, sometimes I was informed and sometimes I don't believe I was informed as the teacher. So, um, I was just very curious. So with that, so we're in high school still here at the beginning, toward the beginning. Can you talk about the end of your ninth grade year and going into residential treatment for the first time? And maybe
So
describe what residential treatment is to help people
yeah,
out.
yeah. So I got diagnosed with everything, go into the hospital at the very, very beginning of ninth grade year. I have this full year of trying to convince myself that things aren't that bad, that everyone kind of experiences this level of
Right,
emotional roller coaster.
right.
Um, and like experimented with drugs and like
Oh,
was
right.
also like smoking a lot, which is something that really does not work for my body and my brain. It completely cancels out my medication. So my medication really wasn't working when all those times when they're like, "Did you take your meds?" There's
Oh,
yeah. So that did not work for me. And so at the end of my ninth grade year, I had missed as much class as I possibly could have. I was doing really poorly in all my classes. And then one day I got caught skipping, um, and I had weed in my bag, and I got
mm,
caught by one of the like campus security um,
mm,
officers, and so they brought me back to campus, and it was like, and this was maybe a month before the end of the school year, and they took me back, and my dad came to campus and it was like, what are we going to do with you? Basically, it's like, are we going to press charges? Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? And it there was no way that that whole environment was going to work for me. So um, my dad was like, well, if we can get him into a program, like a mental health program, can you make sure that you don't charge him? And that's what it was. Like it was a bargain. Like
got it.
my mental health treatment for not getting charged with possession. And which is wild now because I'm like so not that person at all anymore. It's just the craziest thing to even say because it's
Yeah,
like 8 lifetimes ago.
yeah,
Which is why breaking this up into sections made
yeah.
more sense. So what happened is so a residential treatment program is a program and it can last from anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 months to 6 months. It really depends on the program. I've
Mm,
been in them as an adult. But my first time being in one was when I was 15, and I spent 3 months in Utah.
mm,
You spend your, and my family's still in North Carolina, so you're away from your friends, your family. Um, uh, Usually it's very limited access
right,
to being able to communicate back to
right,
everyone. Um, and it's treatment all the time, pretty much. It's like mental health treatment 9 to 5, and then kind of sprinkled in the afternoons and the weekends as well. And so you're just constantly getting treatment and going to classes, different types of therapies. So you'll get like cognitive behavioral therapy, you'll get art therapy, music therapy, like all these different kinds. Family therapy sometimes is included. Um, and it's supposed to help get you out of the environment that you're in and really like reset. So for me, that 3 months was what I did just outside of Salt Lake City, and
dreams.
it
Okay.
was the biggest like contrast from like me doing whatever I wanted and just being a hooligan
Yeah,
to like all of a sudden my life is very structured, and I'm in
right.
Utah, which is my personal.
Yeah, yeah. It is its own experience, Utah in general. Like it's got its own culture. Um, so you were in for 3 months. And I feel like I wanted to ask a transitional question here. So, when you came out of that, before we get into the next piece, that's the last section for this part.
Yeah.
When you came out, did you feel like it made a difference?
Um, I felt different.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know if I mean, it's hard because it was also that's the reason why I didn't write a question there is because it was a really weird time in my life.
Yeah.
I like my parents like tried to homeschool me for a year.
Oh, okay.
Um, and I had basically no interactions with people my age.
Mm,
And so it put me in this really weird um like and I took like in the moment I went into treatment, I was very serious. So it was like, okay, like I really do like want to feel better. I feel
hmm
like shit. Like I don't want to feel
hmm
like this. So I've tried to take it very seriously the whole time. I
hmm
like was really um I wasn't fine with feeling like that anymore. Um I don't know if I was ever fine with feeling like that. I just felt like, okay, this is a actual possible solution to feeling better. Um And so when I came out, I felt like I could feel better, but then I didn't have any social support. I didn't have any
hmm
support systems other than seeing my psychiatrist and a therapist coming out. So all of the support that I needed that could have been helped along by going to treatment kind of fell off, and then I was kind of alone again, which has not, particularly ever served me.
Right, like the throwing you in the deep end analogy. That's
Yeah,
kind of like you were
yeah.
in this nice
I was
structure and
born in
then,
the deep end. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Okay. So, knowing a little bit of that, and we just heard about the homeschooling, can you talk about what happened when you were 18 and how that impacted your relationship with medication, um, and what caused those feelings to eventually change for you?
Yeah. So after I was homeschooled, which was a catastrophe, because I'm not a self-motivated learner
Right,
whatsoever,
right,
and that's what I needed to be to make that situation work. My parents put me in public school that was closer to where we were physically, because before my ninth grade, um, uh, high school was a magnet high school, so it was
Mhm.
further to get there. So they put me in a public school that was closer, and I started making friends and starting to kind of have this like normal teenage life again. And really, a lot of my bipolar symptoms were well under control. And uh, in my final year of high school when I was 18, I started to this kind of situation developed, like interpersonal situation developed, and all of a sudden I was um, like it just kind of it was a balloon that just like popped, if you will, without getting into the details because I don't think they're relevant, but
Right.
um, a situation happened and all of a sudden I was just insanely depressed and I just couldn't
Mm,
function. And
mm,
so what happened is they upped my lithium, which has always been like a fail-safe medication for me. And lithium has to be monitored constantly. You can become blood can become toxic
yep.
from it, get very, very sick. And I got lithium toxicity when I
Oh,
was 18. And it was horrible. I legitimately thought I was going to die and have never been traumatic or like
right,
crazy
right,
like about like when I say something like that to someone.
right,
I take that very seriously and I really legitimately thought that's what was happening. And like luckily everything, was fine and like worked its way out of my system and all of this, but um it's very, very scary and I couldn't take my medicine anymore out of
hmm
fear. And I never
hmm
had that fear in my medication before. So I stopped taking medicine and for a couple years. I finished uh, high school and um, did a couple years without being on medication. And what changed my mind about medication and coming back to it was that for me, functioning without being on medication is just not something I can do long term. I had a kind of lucky experience, after I stopped taking them when I was 18, uh, where like nothing crazy happened, uh, if you will. But uh, I like I'm not always going to be that lucky, and I really changed like my attitude from this is something like I might be able to be on, I might be able to not be on, whatever. To like this is not my 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 future. Good for you if you don't have to take medications. Like I always say it now, it's like if you don't have to take medications, congratulations. I'm not one of those people. And I really had that realization, you know, coming coming back to it.
Yep, I'm in the same boat. So that's really where your adolescence and initial diagnosis and all the experiences there. And is there anything you want to add to that piece of your puzzle?
I think that um the as I've gotten older, I've had conversations with my parents about this because I really think that it must have been so frightening and isolating for my parents to see
Mm-hmm.
me going through that. And I know I felt frightened and alone. Um, but once I got help, I felt supported. And I don't think they ever got the support feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they always felt like they were doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And so as an adult, to be able to go up to them and be like, I'm so thankful that you were able to help me and that you did help me and you tried, um, I think about them a lot and how scary of a situation that must have been and how thankful I am that I got to receive help. I know that teenagers are scary and but there really isn't, I don't think as someone who has received a lot of care at that age, I don't think there's any harm in, you know, seeing if they, going to see a therapist or seeing a counselor, I like just seeing if something is off, is like a little too extreme outside of the realm of what's, you know, uh what's like okay to see in the teenagers' behaviors and stuff like that. And if they are breaking a lot of rules or, it's like I just like to me it's always gonna ping like something's going on. Like check in with this kid, listen to kids, like they deserve that. Um and and you're not a failure as a parent or a guardian if
Mm-hmm.
something is going on. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, those are all really good messages. And do we want to stop this section here, or do we want to, how do you want to edit this?
I guess I'll say like an outro and then I'll
Yes.
stop
Okay.
stop the recording and then we can even know how much left to but yeah. Okay. Yeah. Um, So thanks everyone for watching. That's part one, which is just kind of getting into my experience in the mental health world. And then in part two, we're going to be talking a little bit more about my adulthood and what that experience has been like, adulthood prior to disability, because I feel like disability is one of its own animal. So thank you so much, Lori, for interviewing me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Um, and my brain just like stopped
So
working. And so thank you, Larry. I appreciate it.
you're welcome, and thank you for writing thoughtful questions that I could tweak and expand on as needed.